No, I started early. I had pressure, so I started early. This is my awesome group up here. Love these ladies. I love all of you, but I just love them more. So you're going to have to just deal with that. So basically, if you were not here last week, I will make you raise your hand. But I'll just connect what was happening last week in case you weren't able to make it. Bonnie Palmer. I love Bonnie. She is an amazing lady. She hosted our whole group this summer. She has a she shed that's beautiful and wonderful. If we can garden, you can see Bonnie Palmer. So anyways, so last week, Philippians 1, Linda gave a tremendous talk, and we were talking about to live as Christ. So does anyone remember the phrase she used? She actually stole it from Hudson Taylor. But does anyone remember the phrase she used to describe to live as Christ? It was arrows and a circle, and then exchange happened. The exchange life. That was totally so simple. Yeah. So the exchange life. So I love that picture, the exchange life. She gave reference to a verse, actually two verses in Colossians chapter 3. And I'm going to read them to you because I can butcher a verse really fast. So Colossians chapter 3 was on, I think like it's the second page in her notes, or third page. Anyways, you'll find it. And she had said, I actually had it open, and I closed my tab. So Colossians chapter 3, verses 4 through 5. Okay, so when Christ, who is our life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. We don't even need to read verse 5. You can read that later, that'll be fun. But when Christ, who is our life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. So she was talking about last week the exchange life. I love how 2 Corinthians 3, verse 18 describes it. It talks about being transformed into Christ's likeness. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image, from glory to glory, just as from the Lord the Spirit. So this is a process of being transformed. In my devotional time this week, the Lord brought the book of John to mind. He's like, just read the book of John. I was like, did you narrow it down? It's like, no, you just need to read the whole thing. I was like, okay, I can do that. So reading in the book of John was an awesome experience going through. And if you look at John 3:30, I like things really simple. I like to have it like, da-da-da-da-da-da. And in John 3:30, it basically just says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And that's what we're going to bring it to today. Today we're talking about humility. And humility, the basic the context I'm going to boil it down to is that humility is we're increasing Christ, we're putting him in a proper place, but we must decrease to do that. So there's a process we're going to go through today to talk about he must increase, I must increase. So if our life is hidden with Christ, when Christ, who is our life, is revealed, as the text said, we are now part of that representing him. We need to represent him correctly, but we can only do that humbly. So today we're going to look at humility and how we can do that. So in your group now, before I get started on the whole spiel, your group leader is going to read to you Philippians chapter 2. Surprise! So group leaders, please read your group Philippians chapter 2. And then I'm going to bring us back in. So when you're done, it's going to take you like 5 minutes. It's like 30 verses. So read Philippians chapter 2 to your group.
there's any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, by the way, this is complete my joy by being the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind.
You are, I just, I'm like,
Okay. Do nothing for yourself, ambition, conceit, but in humility. Count others more significant than yourselves. But each of you, not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus. Who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but in himself he took the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on the cross. Therefore, God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him a name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus every knee shall bow, in heaven and on earth, and the earth, and every time confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Every knee will bow. Lights in the world. Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, so now, not only as in my presence, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you both to will and work for his good pleasure. Do all things without grumbling or disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent children of God, without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation. As lights in the world, holding fast to the word of life, so that in the day of Christ I may be proud that I do not run in vain or labor in vain. Even if I am to be poured out as a drink offering upon the sacrificial offering of your faith, I am glad and rejoice with you all. Likewise, you should be glad and rejoice with me. I hope in the Lord Jesus to send Timothy to you soon, so that I may be cheered by news of you. For I have no one like him will be genuinely concerned for your welfare. For they all seek their own interests, not those of Jesus Christ. But you know Timothy's proven worth, how as his son with the Father he has served with me in the gospel. I hope therefore to send him just as soon as I see how it will go with me, and I trust in the Lord that shortly I will come also. I have thought, if necessary, to send you to my brother and fellow worker, as fellow soldiers, as your messenger and minister in my need, for he has been longing for you all, and has been distressed because you heard that he was ill. Indeed, he was ill near death, but God had mercy on him, and not only on him, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. I am the Lord, eager to send him, therefore, that you may rejoice in seeing him again, and that I may be less anxious. So receive him in the Lord with all joy, honor such men, for he nearly died for the work of Christ, for his life to complete what was lacking in your service. In my Bible, it's got, in this thing, it's got this little marks in this, like, right, and so, it's like it's got this break, so it's like
are you moving past that?
Yes.
Not emphasize the break?
yes, it's he's about pausing there, it's like, oh,
You didn't get meals supplied.
somebody had to bring,
Somebody had to bring it all into you.
It all has to be brought by a family member or a friend or else you went to die.
oh, your turn.
Have you arrived? Of course. I always.
Even in the time of jolly old England, it's only in modern times that we taxpayers are paying for that. That used to be they depended on family and friends.
You don't.
I think I translated it wrong.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. He is, you know.
Yeah, our
he-
taxes are paid.
And this rejoices, so I'm
Yeah.
not thinking, he really knows what it means. Still not. He's
provide their
Yeah.
cigarettes,
Yeah, right.
marijuana, and
Maybe that.
I think the healthcare for them.
No, I have nothing.
I don't know about that. No, I think that
They have to buy their
Families
smokes.
have, yeah.
They have to buy them, they have to earn them with credits or buy them. Whole new, brand new one. Oh, that was it, we're just. Oh,
Just a little.
What's it get to that damn ground? I do, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you. As soon as tomorrow.
Everyone
the
get a
hour.
chance to read it through?
I think she's
Philippians 2? Good, all right. I just want to flick the lights, because real teachers do that. but
Yeah.
they're too far.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is me flicking the lights. Okay, so Philippians chapter 2, can you just shout out, you can go wild, even though we're in church. But we looked at, in your chapter that your leader read to you, there was 3 people mentioned that would give an example of humbly serving. So who was the first person listed in chapter 2 that was an example of humility and humbly serving? Christ, okay? Who came next? Timothy. And the bonus name, the last one.
Epaphroditus.
Epaphroditus.
Sounds
Okay.
like a disease.
That's not an easy name to say. It clearly hasn't stuck because I have not been Epaphroditus today. So we're looking at today only one of those 3. And I entitled this lecture, Christ's Humility, the Example of All Examples. So we're only looking at Christ's humility today, according to Philippians 2. I was listening to a study that Linda recommended. If any of you use Right Now Media, it's like YouTube for Christians or Netflix for Christians. I don't know. They have a little tagline and something like that. Well, Christians can be on YouTube. I'm not saying anything about YouTube. I'm sorry. I think it's called Netflix for Christians or Christian Bible Study. Anyways, but looking in Right Now Media, Linda's like, take a look at Matt Chandler's To Live as Christ study. It's all on the book of Philippians. Take a look at that. So this shows you how qualified I am to be teaching up here. I spelled Philippians wrong. Yes, I did. I doubled the L. Don't do that, ladies. You doubled the P. Philippians. So when I typed in Philippians, Matt Chandler, it was like, nothing found. I was like, not how you spell it, Dodo. So anyway, so I was looking on that, and I'm totally stealing this example I'm going to use from Matt Chandler. He said, we've all had to wring out something in our life. If I take this cloth and I dip it in some water, Linda was panicked I was going to do foot washing today. I just really wanted to freak her out and call her up for a foot washing. It with some nice cold water.
And that would not have happened by now.
Yeah, she would have disowned me. It'd be something. So, if you are to look at the book of Philippians, if this cloth is to represent Christian virtues, like we might talk about the fruits of the Spirit in church, we might talk about love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. If you look at the book of Philippians and you are to wring out the one central virtue, it's humility. And I love that. What is Paul wringing out in the book of Philippians? It's humility. So we're going to look at Christ's humility. If y'all want your feet washed, I can do that for you. Just don't get soap. We'll go COVID style. Wash feet, wash hands. All right. So we're going to look today at Christ's example of humility, and I think it's a fantastic study. It's something that I can't do justice to in 2 hours. There are books I could recommend if you're interested for like further study, but the only example is found right here in Scripture. So this is what would be, take the time, study humility. It is in Proverbs, it is in John, it is all over this book. I've just come to fall in love with this word humility. So we're going to look at it, and on your notes there's going to be a few fill in the blanks for y'all. For all y'all. Yes. So the first one, under Christ's humility, we're looking at the attitude of Christ or as in scripture would say, let this mind be in you. So the attitude of Christ, which also conveys the idea of let this mind be in you. So if you look at the word mind, I don't know the Greek, so I'm just gonna like throw out what this word might be. It's either like phroneo. I'm sure there's an app that could say this for me.
It is for nail.
Thank you, phroneo. So this
What
word
app is
mind-
that, anyway?
What was that?
What app is that just spoke?
Yeah. But this word mind, we're talking about the attitude of Christ, or let this mind be in you. That word mind, I have a quote there, to think, but it also conveys the idea of an inner perspective showing itself in a corresponding outward behavior. So I have an inner perspective of humility as a Christ follower, as one being transformed into the likeness of Christ, and that is going to play out in a corresponding outward behavior. So it has to be congruent. I think this, I do this. I think and believe this, I act on it. So that's what we're talking about when we refer to the word mind. Christ displayed humility, which is lowliness of mind. I can have a prideful state of mind. My mind could be, I am the best, you are not. I love you though, Sue. I can have an exalted frame of mind. I could have an exalted position of myself. That could be a type of mind, but we're talking today about Christ's humility, which is lowliness of mind. It actually correlates to the word shabby. And I don't really want to be like, oh, I'm shabby. Like, that's not really like a word we want to use. If someone's like, describe yourself, you're like, I'm shabby. I just like, it's not something we say. We might say, I'm calm, I'm quiet, I'm whatever, I'm timid. But we don't, I'm shabby chic, make it cuter. But we don't typically say, I'm shabby. Pretty lowly. But when we look, I want you to think about the word lowliness of mind. It's not like, you know, I stink, I guess I'll go eat worms type of thing. But it's a modest view of yourself. So you need to think of it as a modest view of yourself. It actually comes from this word, it looks like hummus, but it's H-U-M-U-S, and it means earth. You're grounded to the earth. So you're not like all hoity-toity up here. You have this hummus, this word, grounded, an earthly view. You have a proper view of yourself. You have a modest or low view of your importance, okay? So it's not that you think less of yourself, it's that you think of yourself less. Like, we're just trying to get what this word means, kind of new thought process in our mind. So if I'm to look at this word humility, understanding the lowliness of mind, the attitude, this is how it looks like displayed. It's an attitude that I'm not too good to serve, okay? I have to take on that attitude and be thinking to myself, I'm not too good. I'm not too good to serve. It's that I'm going to do what needs to be done so nobody else has to do it. I have a story to share with you. It involves doo-doo. I just need to throw that out there right now because that is what the story is about. It really represents the attitude of, I am not too good to serve, and I will do what needs to be done so nobody else has to do it. When you pray and ask the Lord to teach you about humility, look out, okay? It could be messy. So you're all like, oh, this is really nervous. I don't know where she's taking this. I won't take it far. I'll just explain what happened. So I'm driving home one day, and I live out in the country. I'm 35 minutes from here. You take the Wolf Lodge exit, turn right, turn to Harrison. If you want to come visit me, I'll give you the address. So you go out, I live like 35 minutes from here, out in the country, and the way our road works, I live on Burma Road. The way our road works is, we're the first pullout on Burma Road. You don't want to be the first pullout on Burma Road, and I'll tell you why. Some people driving to work, servicemen, contractors, people that work at this Gaza Ranch Golf Course Firehouse, I don't think they went potty that morning.
Oh, no.
And for some reason, we have a really inviting driveway. Like, I don't know what it is about our driveway, but this is not the first time I found poo-poo in my driveway. that is not from an animal, okay? So, I don't really know how to solve this problem. It's not like one can put, please don't poop here. Like, you can't, like, that's not a sign that Amazon has. Yeah, I'm like, I don't really know it. I don't know. So what I think people do is they pull over their, I'm assuming it's a guy, because I don't think a lady would be caught dead doing this. Pull over their big trucks, and then they come on the side that's hidden from the road, and they do their thing. Well, I'm like, there's so many bushes. Why not in the trees or the bushes? Why in the middle of my driveway? So I have other people that live on our road. Who's going to pick up the mound? And I say it, they brought their own toilet paper, the mound of toilet paper in my driveway.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And I'm like, so the kid's like, Mom! I was like, give me the Amazon package. Like, what are you gonna do, Mom? Give me the Amazon package. You rip that sucker open, I was getting the mail, take out what was ever in there. Thank you, Lord, for the Amazon package. And it's the envelope that's like waterproof. You need that for this job. So I get a bag like you would if you're taking care of your pet's business. And I could not take care of the liquefied portion, which is the kind it was. So I had to take the toilet paper so that none of my other sweet neighbors would have to do this. And the Lord's like, you wanted to learn about humility. Someone's got to do this. No one wants to do this job. You need to do it. So you put it in the Amazon bag, roll it up, drive home half mile with the Amazon package out the window so you don't smell anything.
Good.
But that is what humility looks like. Doing what needs to be done so nobody else has to do it. I could not have left that there. That's disgusting. I could have asked my husband to go get it. He was pretty cranky when I told him about the story, but I was like, still, what are you going to do? How do you solve this problem? So that is what humility is. I'm not saying look at my attitude. I'm just saying it's to see the picture of doing the things that nobody else wants to do so nobody else has to do them. Remember, we're taking on an attitude that we're not too good to serve here, okay? And I mean, if the person had a legitimate, like, medical reason they needed to do that, fine. So if you know the person, it's fine. I've forgiven them. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to get back to business here. Not that kind of business. All right. Yeah. So we're going to look now, take a more sanctified view here about Christ taking the form of a servant. Can somebody please read Philippians 2:7? Bethany, I nominate you because you have a wonderful, beautiful smile.
Let's do it. I was smiling at the time.
Okay, but I pretend. Read it loud.
Philippians 2:7. But made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant and coming in the likeness of men.
Okay, so Christ took the form of a what? Bondservant, okay? I want to look at examples where Christ defines true greatness. We live in a world where true greatness might be defined as the more exalted your accomplishments are, or the more achievements you have under your belt, the greater you are. I want to look at what Christ, who if we're following him, what he says is true greatness. I want to see what he has to say about true greatness. Because it kind of feels weird. It would feel weird for me saying, as a Christian, I want to have true greatness. You'd be like, well, that's not very humble. But Christ actually talks about true greatness. And I want to read it to you. So if you can all open up to Mark 10, or phone, in your phone, Mark 10, verses 43 and 45. We're going to read Christ's words about true greatness. Am I loud enough for the people in the back? No.
What?
No? You want it louder?
Yep.
Okay. Mark 10, verse 43 and 45. But it is not this way among you, but whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Can somebody else read that out loud? We need a fresh voice. Dottie, can you read verses 43 to 45 loud?
Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many.
Thank you. So whoever wishes to become great shall be your servant. We're going to look at Matthew 20, verse 26 through 28, verses 26 through 28. We're talking about true greatness as defined by Christ. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I went to chapter 26. My bad. You guys should stay in chapter 20, though. All right. It is not this way among you, but whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. So verse 27 used a different word. It used the word slave. So we have the context of humility involving, if we want true greatness as defined by Christ, we, as it says in the text, whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. So the idea of a slave, one who is a servant, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served in your blanks, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. Matthew has one more thing to share with us. In Matthew 18, verses 2 through 4, you don't have to turn there. It doesn't mean you're not spiritual if you don't go. It's all good. Matthew 18, verses 2 through 4. And he called a child to himself, this is Jesus, and set him before them and said, truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become, some texts say humble. Truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become like children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Verse 4, whoever then humbles himself as this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. So he's calling on even a child as an example of humbling themselves to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Your next point on your notes, Christ modeled selfless service. We see that over and over and over again. In John 13, verses 5 through 17, we have an example of loving humility. I think that's the foot washing. I need to double check. It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Has anyone in here ever done a foot washing, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to do it again? I'm just yeah, that is an act of selfless service. But that's not the only example, because he says in the text, and I want to read just like a verse from there. In verse 15, John 13, verse 15, he says, for I give you an example that you also should do as I did to you. So nowadays, we're not walking barefoot on dusty, dirty, nasty roads where we would need and require a foot washing to be clean. That's not typical of today, unless you're a kid, you're filthy, get it up. Today, an example, I was trying to think of be open to, have my eyes open to where are there ways where I see people humbly serving. 2 weeks ago, my kids went to vacation Bible school with our neighbor. And this teenage gal, she was a volunteer, she came in and she's doing this and she's getting hand sanitizer and she's just making weird faces and the adult leader asked, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I was scraping gum out of the grass where the little kids were having a water balloon fight because I didn't want anyone to step in it. So she's picking up nasty, chewed up gum out of the grass so no little ones step in it when they had a water fight. And I thought I had problems with people pooping in my driveway. It's like, that's nasty. I didn't ever have contact with anything. It was all covered in, sterile. But this girl is cleaning gum out of her nails and she had to dig at it so no kids would get gum on their feet. I'm like, that's an example of a humble servant right there. This girl was 13. A 13-year-old girl teaching me about humility, Then another day, I was on my walk there's a really, really ritzy golf course out by our house, and, these people have a lot of money. I live in a double wide, I'm not ritzy. So I'm walking on my walk, and I see a janitor man, and he's like, I'm guessing 78. He has, I'll never forget this. He has a rag in his hand, and it was like this weird moment where, like, I'm not even kidding you, the sun is like shining down for, like, God, he's like, I want you to pay attention, Cherie, to this. So it's like, instead of a spotlight, it's like the sun is shining on this man's green city garbage can. So this man, janitorial staff, he's out there with a rag, and he's like this, just, I mean, shining that puppy up. This was the nicest trash can on the block, by the way. He's just like, I don't take that kind of care of my body. He's just like, the thing shined. Wow. And I was like, that's impressive. Like, who is this person? I kid you not, and I'm not trying to be dramatic, I'm not trying to make a point. This man looked up. I have never, ever even considered this in my head. He looked like Jesus to me.
Oh.
I'm not in my mind, and you're like, well, what do you don't know what Jesus looks like. No, I don't. But the love in this man's eyes, they were the brightest blue eyes. They were glistening, like, you know when someone looks when they've been crying, but like joyful tears? The man's cleaning this thing. His eyes are bright, alive, and this sounds really dorky. I'm going to use the word pools of love. They were like pools of love, and I don't even talk like that. Ask my husband. I'm not like, oh, your hands are like pools of love today. That's not like words I would use, but those are the descriptions that would only do it justice. This whole experience of seeing a man carefully tend to this garbage can for so long. Maybe he gets paid by the hour, but he's just like, this thing shined. And he looked at me and he just smiled. And I was like, it was radiant, people. Wow. You can be radiant. You forget oil of Olay, okay? Yeah. You can be radiant with a rag cleaning a garbage can. And I was just like, thank you, Lord, for letting me see that moment of that man. Like, it was like he had the most precious job in the world, shining that sucker up. And I was like, it was amazing seeing that man do that. I will never, ever forget it. And I don't even know if he was an angel or real. I'm like, I want to hang out with the maintenance man, but my husband would find that probably inappropriate. Anyways, so it was just beautiful to see that in action. So back to Christ. He modeled selfless service. He's an example of loving humility. I think we got that blank. Yeah. Good. Okay. Matthew 11:29. Can somebody who's in Matthew read that to me? Matthew 11:29. Don't be shy. I mean, you could be shy. Just still read it, though. Fight through it. Matthew 11:29. Who's going to read it?
I got it. 11:29. Okay. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls.
Maybe that wasn't the... Oh, yeah, lowly in heart. Yep. Yeah. Okay, thank you. My version said humble, so humble heart, too. Whatever. It's good. You can still read next time. I said a humble heart, lowly in heart. It's all conveying what we're trying to convey here, people. Here's one not on there. 1 Peter 5:5. I need someone who really likes clothes to read this. You really like clothes. Don't hide it, don't fight it, just read it. 1 Peter 5:5. Come on, who likes clothes? Bonnie, you know you want to.
Yeah.
I like to have, going out.
Okay, just read it. 1 Peter 5:5.
I prefer no clothes.
Oh, no. Of course it's my group. Don't listen. 1 Peter 5:5.
In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, shows favor.
Okay. So if you couldn't hear Bonnie, clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, for God is opposed to the
Proud.
but he gives
Grace.
to the
Humble.
You guys passed. Good job. I'm going to tell you my most humiliating. It's not a moment. It's never happened. It's my potentially most terrifying, humiliating moment that's going to happen to me one day. I know it's gonna happen. This is it, and you're like, why does she have her clothes up here? Okay, so I'm gonna explain, we're talking about clothing ourselves with humility. This is my potentially humiliating, terrifying fear. A lot of times I wear a shirt and like a cardigan or a tank top underneath. I do this a lot, like you layer, right? Ladies, anyone else layer? Okay, we layer. So if you ever see me wearing a hoodie, please never, ever offer to take it from me. Because I only wear like the camisole shirt underneath, like, you know, so like don't be like, oh, let me take your foot. No, this is my outfit. Don't take it. Don't take it. I'm fine. I wore this on purpose. So this is my potentially humiliating fear that's going to happen one day. On my drive, I go around the lake, and this is my fear. When it's cold weather, cold lake temperature, my fear is I'm going to come up on an accident, and someone's going to be in hypothermia
You're gonna give
in the
your
lake.
sweater.
Okay, this is my fear. This is legitimate. This is who's teaching you, ladies. Okay, I need to find other people. This is my fear, and we're going to get up onto scene. I don't know anything, Andrea, about medical, so you're going to be like, this is so off. This is my fear, that I'm going to get up on scene and they're going to be like, I need your hoodie. I'm freezing to death. And I'd be like, well, I can move you to my car, and I will put the heat on and the seats. You push a button and it'll be warm. And they'll be like, you can't move me. I have sustained a neck and back injury. You cannot move me. Do not move me to your car. I need your hoodie.
Give me your hoodie.
And I'll be like, I can't give you my hoodie. And they'll be like, what? You can't give me your hoodie? Then I will die here. Because if I give you my hoodie, all that's left underneath is this humiliating skin
shirt.
underneath, and I give you this. I'm left in this. This does not fit me.
No.
Okay? Have you ever opened the biscuits and they pop?
Yeah.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever popped some biscuits? I'm a popped can of biscuits under this. Never take this. Ever. Under no circumstance. If you're legitimately dying, I will give you my hoodie. I've dealt with that with the Lord. But I also carry blankets in my car now.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Maybe a t-shirt?
Yeah.
I used to carry coats.
Just wear a t-shirt underneath.
I can't, because I like the little, I have like 1,800 of those things. So I just love, I got them all the colors. Don't take my hoodie, ladies. But that is, I got a pride problem. All of that to show, I don't want you to see my busted can of biscuits underneath. Basically what it's boiling down to, that's the best way I can show you the example of humility that I really struggle with to this day. And I'm sorry if you
I'll never open another can of biscuits without thinking of you.
And I thought your table would be like, you can buy biscuits in a can? Like, we make them every day from scratch for our husbands. Nobody's got time for that. I get it frozen typically. They're already broken for you. Okay, so that is what clothing yourselves with humility looks like, okay? I want you to think about these. I want you to see it. I want you to understand what we're trying to convey here. We are going to take a 3.5-minute potty break right here.
3.5 minutes.
Right here.
And if I give you 5, I'll never get you back, okay? I'm gonna even time it soon. So you have a 3.5 potty break, 3.5-minute potty break, and then we gotta come back and do some serious work.